Okay, I'm just going to get straight to the point. We are all part of the problem. Regardless of if you want to admit it to yourself or not, we all are cogs in the wheel of society and of the way society is turning out to be. And is that something that we're happy about? Now, you may be wondering, what is Maya talking about? So today, I'll be talking about a major cultural issue that is really important to me and should be very important to you. How our society has come to normalize lust and promiscuity in all forms. From hookup culture and infidelity to the way that strip clubs and things like OnlyFans have been normalized and celebrated. It's all part of a system that isn't really about empowerment at all. It is exactly what the patriarchy wants. And for some reason, I find that everybody I come across in this day and age is blind to that. We have gotten to a point within this society where the patriarchy has successfully convinced us that objecting ourselves is freedom, whilst real loyalty and genuine connections are pushed to the side. Within this video, I'll also be touching on how damaging these messages are for our children and how exposing them to adult themes from young sets them up for a lifetime of confusion and low self-esteem. So join me as I break down these damaging trends and ask, what matters more? Short-term gains or building a real, genuine connection? I've been planning to make this video for a long time, but I feel like now is perfect because I don't know if you've watched it. If you haven't watched it and you're watching this, I urge you to watch that first and then come back to this. But it's a TV show, Adolescence, and everyone and their mum is talking about it on social media, and rightly so. It really hammers home how damaging the glorification of promiscuity can be. We're the first generation waking up to the fact that these messages are not harmless fun. They are all quite literally reshaping our culture in very dangerous ways. We, as a new generation of adults, must recognize that whilst we often complain about these societal problems, we are all playing our parts in the machine that praises superficiality and promiscuity instead of challenging them and changing the pattern. Many of us are in denial of the true costs. For instance, consider the negative effects of pornography on young minds, and then add to that trend with things like OnlyFans and other overly sexualized content online. And sure, a lot of people watching this may think, it isn't that deep, Maya. I'm just getting my money up. But what is more important? Quick and easy money or protecting the well-being of a whole entire generation of children? We really need to ask ourselves, are we genuinely willing to sacrifice the mental and emotional health of our youth for the sake of profit and gratification? I think it's time we rethink what we actually value. I think it's time we rethink our morals and work and strive towards a society that praises genuine connections with real, genuine people, as well as leaving all of that terrible, horrible stuff I've mentioned in the past. The normalization of lust and hookup culture. It really, really irks my soul that we've come to accept lust as a normal part of everyday life. Everywhere we look, whether we're doom scrolling on Instagram or watching our favourite shows, the glorification of casual sex and hookup culture is everywhere. We are constantly bombarded with content that praises instant gratification, where physical appearance is the sole measurement for success. What you need to realise is how this normalisation creates a very dangerous feedback loop, where the more we see these images, the more we internalise them as the only standard of beauty and desirability. But even worse than that is the way that we as a society have glorified cheating and infidelity as if there's something to be proud of. Music, reality TV shows, and even social media are constantly pushing the image that stepping out on your partner is something to be excited about. The idea of staying loyal to one person is very quickly becoming uncool. When did it become normal for someone to cheat and then laugh about it on a podcast? This mentality is not only damaging to relationships, but society as a whole. It teaches people, especially young, impressionable men, that commitment and faithfulness are optional, that loyalty is boring, and that you should always be looking for something or someone better. And let's be real, this kind of mentality doesn't just stay in the club or in a song lyric. It spills into real life relationships. Love, loyalty, and commitment is something that we should strive for, not mock. It is time that we stop glorifying behaviour that destroys trust and relationships. Separately, do you want to know who benefits from all of this? The patriarchy. The same system that has oppressed women for centuries now has women believing that they are empowered by doing what benefits men the most. This might open up a whole different can of worms, but let's talk about OnlyFans, because this is where the brainwashing runs deep. I don't know how we got here, but somewhere along the way, women were convinced that selling yourself online is a form of feminism. That taking off your clothes to strangers online was taking control and owning your sexuality. But who really benefits from this? okay? You might become a millionaire overnight, but the only people that really benefit from this is the men that pay for it, is the men that profit from this industry. The men who sit back whilst women degrade themselves for their entertainment, all while convincing themselves it's liberation. Brother, this is not feminism. Feminism is about equality. It's about being valued for more than just your looks, about breaking free from the idea that a woman's worth is tied to how much men desire her. But the patriarchy has twisted the narrative so much that now women are willingly partaking in their own objectification, thinking it's empowerment. I'm sorry, but real empowerment is having the option to do something and choosing not to do it because you recognize the bigger picture. I can't stress this enough. We need to wake up to this manipulation. We are doing exactly what they want us to do. Reducing ourselves to sexual objects, making ourselves easily accessible for them, whilst men sit back and reap all the benefits. They don't have to force us to conform anymore. We are doing it voluntarily, and that is the scariest part. Hello. There are a couple other points that I didn't mention when I originally recorded this, so I'll be chopping and changing in between now and then. But I wanted to make something regarding this whole topic very clear. I'm not referring to the women who have turned to sex work out of necessity. Those who had no other options and used it as a means to survive or escape poverty. Because that's just the reality for many people, and I'm not here to shame people for doing what they had to do. Survival is survival, and for a lot of people, sex work is just work, and that is valid. But what I am addressing, and what frustrates me, is the glowing trend of glamorizing sex work, to the point where it's portrayed as just another casual, risk-free job option. And also, I just want to say, this is not shaming people who want to like dress up and take cute pictures online, but there's a threshold, like there's a line, and we know when it is crossed. So just use your common sense on this one. It's always get your money up until you're actively going against the efforts of thousands of women who have fought for equality. And the people that bang that, please just sit here with me and just reflect and evaluate. Chances are you probably grew up with a hint of insecurity due to the way that women are portrayed in the media. So why would you now then support the modern day version of that, which is 10,000 times worse? Please, for the life of everybody, make it make sense. And that takes me swiftly on to my next section, the impact this has on self-image. The other week, I had a particularly painful conversation about what it means to be a girl in today's society. I've come to the conclusion that every single girl I've met at some point in their lives weren't happy with their appearance. From the moment we were born, we were faced with women that look nothing like us. So we were raised on the question of, why don't I look like that? Why is she shaped like that and why aren't I? How is she so slim and I am the opposite? Why are her curves in the right places and mine aren't? When in reality, everything that we compare ourselves to is not real. And you know what? Maybe they are real. Maybe it's just that one in a million. But we compare ourselves to that one because that's what's plastered all over social media, music, TV, and everything else. And with the rise of the internet, that problem is only going to get worse. Comparison is the thief of joy. But what if that's all we've ever known? We are somewhat stuck in this constant loop of, why aren't we good enough? This low vibrational energy that the patriarchy wants us to remain in. The less self-respect and love we have for ourselves, the more they can use and abuse us how they want. As well as all of this, it's now wired into men's heads that women are meant to look a certain type of way, that they should have curves in all the right places, and if not, they're not interested. And why would they be, when they can click a couple buttons and access the most beautiful women in the world? We wonder why some men don't have any respect for us as people, and that is because they simply don't view us as people. They see us as a tool for their own pleasure. The instant access to other beautiful women leave women in the real world feeling lonely and unworthy, and it's a real problem that we need to address. Instead of celebrating our unique qualities, we measure ourselves against this impossible standard. And do you want to know what the outcome of that is? A generation which struggles to appreciate their own worth and feels disconnected from their true identity. Objectification and its societal impact. As if the damage to self-image wasn't enough, the normalization of sexual content has led to a dangerous reprogramming of how we view one another, especially how men view women. In a culture where women are consistently degraded to mere objects of desire, the ability to see them as real functioning human beings is being eroded. We really can't keep just being blind to the fact that we are falling into the hands of the patriarchy and doing exactly what they want. Like, Bruv, like, I don't know how they've convinced us this is feminism, but, you know, here we are, and here I am trying to convince everybody to go on the right path, you know, to try and challenge these things. Because if not, society, and I'm telling you, society will fall down a very, very dangerous path. When men come to expect that every single interaction is governed by visual appeal or easy accessibility, respect becomes a casualty. And in no way am I saying that women are to blame for men's, I don't know, lack of fucking self-control sometimes, but I am saying that we play a part in it, you know? What I mean by we play a part in it is that whilst we, like, of course, do not invite men to be weird or stuff like that, but more in a sense of what we challenge, what we ignore, what we praise, and what we, like, you know? This whole argument that people have regarding the porn industry and the ethics behind it, some people could just never, like, be so fucking wrong, and it just stresses me out, because there is no such thing as ethical porn. Whilst, yes, there can be, like, quote unquote safe porn, like homemade, not governed by no company, no contracts, nothing like that. Yeah, you can argue that's safe. However, you are contributing to an industry which as a whole is terrible. You know, the same way that people boycotted Starbucks because of its involvement in the war in Gaza. That's like going to Starbucks and saying it's okay because, like, my latte, like, physically you buying that latte is not affecting anyone. But the bigger picture is the money from that company is going straight into weapons that are going to bomb children. Do you get what I mean? That's why it's fucking bad. I wasn't going to do this, but I decided to add a whole new section because of how important this is and how this is kind of the root of all of this. The porn industry. As a whole, I feel like it often gets sugarcoated in today's, like, realm. And we've simply gotten to a point where we're not even challenging it anymore. We are literally encouraging it. But let's be real. No matter how you want to mask it, a large, vast majority of the porn industry is built on violence against women. Like, it is abuse, you know? I'm going to read you guys a couple statistics because apparently people don't know. And if you want to fact check me, look at my caption. 88.2% of porn contained violence and physical aggression. 48.7% involved verbal aggression. And when women were the ones subjected to this violence, 97% of the time, their reaction was either portrayed as neutral or even positive. How are we supposed to believe that there's such thing as ethical porn in an industry where abuse is not only normalized but sexualized? Perhaps the most alarming aspect of this discussion is how the media exposes younger audiences to things that are not only age inappropriate, but are overly promiscuous. Children and pre-adolescents are not cognitively or emotionally mature enough to handle these adult themes of sexual exploitation, which are unfortunately extremely prevalent in today's society. Studies upon studies have shown that early exposure to sexually explicit content can distort a child's understanding of relationships and their own self-worth. When children are constantly fed with images and narratives that portray promiscuous behavior as glamorous and normal, they are at risk of internalizing these messages, leading to premature sexualization, unhealthy expectations, and even early sexual experimentation. Look, we've all heard about adolescence, and it's a sad show. It's uncomfortable to watch, but it's just the reality of it. And I don't know, we're the adults of this generation. We're no longer the children, us in our 20s, early 30s, whatever. We are not the children anymore. And it's our duty of care to protect the ones that are. Children should be allowed to grow and learn about relationships in an environment that values emotional connection and respect, not one that reduces them to mere objects of sexual gratification. Parents, teachers, and you watching this video, we should come together and try and protect the youth from the dangerous and harmful effects of this content, ensuring that they are not forced to comprehend these adult concepts before they're ready. Whilst we're on the topic of how the media influences perception, I wanted to talk about something else that is really bothering me. How women are portrayed in games, for instance. Because, of course, we can listen to music and acknowledge, like, he's talking about something sexual, but the thing is, it is so deeply rooted within our society that it's so subtle to the point that we don't see it. Or at least we don't recognize it for what it is, like, straight up. Let me just start this off by saying that the age rating for this game is a 12. Regardless of that, if you have played the games before or have seen the games, you will see how overly sexualized the creators have made the female characters specifically. We're talking about exaggerated body proportions, revealing outfits, and poses that feel as if they are designed for the male gaze rather than character development or gameplay. Unfortunately, I understand that in the past there have been comics or just even that kind of realm of media where the women have been sexualized in that sense. So you'd beg to like question like what has changed. However, the fact that nothing has changed and it's only getting worse is like more of a call to action. At what point do we stop pretending it's artistic expression and start acknowledging that these hypersexual portrayals affect how women are seen in real life and in the media? And the worst thing is that like throughout their game updates, they have actively sat back and coded specific parts of like a female to look a certain way. And you know, I even see it in like Fortnite and shit like that, or just like general like video games nowadays, and video games that are aimed towards children. Like it is so subtly integrated into our society, and people don't see how damaging it is like until they see the repercussions of it, until they see the consequences. Especially when games like this have a massive reach, influence, and audience, we have to ask, what kind of messages are these sending to young players? The ones who the game is aimed for. Girls and boys. On the one hand, it shows the boy that this is what a girl was meant to look like, and if she doesn't look like that, the fuck? Slowly but surely that is integrating into a young boy's mind, as well as everything else in the media. This is such a small part of it, but we need to acknowledge where that sets their expectations for girls, as well as the influence this has on young girls. It essentially just sets them up for failure from the get-go, as well as the endless goal to meet that expectation of how a female is meant to look. When the female characters look like they're ready to go to the club and the men look like they're like armored up and like ready for battle, it sends a really deeper message about value and power within our society. And this is why this whole conversation about like sex work and the media's portrayal of women and stuff so niche as Marvel fucking Rivals can't be separated, because it all connects back to a culture that repeatedly tells women that their worth is tied to how desirable they are.
Another thing that I wanted to mention is if you are a female and have experienced secondary school or even middle school, whatever you call it, you know how terrible that was. Being surrounded by like boys or even people like who like are constantly obsessed with sex, whether it be the jokes they make or the conversations they have, that is the experience. And I'm sure if you're a female at some point in your life, you too have been sexualized. Maybe someone called you flat, or maybe someone slapped your ass. It can range from all of these things, but it all boils down to the fact that everything is so sexualized. This is just casual banter. 99% of the time, at some point during your school life alone, you have been made uncomfortable due to someone's comment about your body or someone else's just around you. How at the ripe age of 14 is it normal for a young boy to subconsciously compare their female peers to 30-year-old porn stars and no one even dares to question or combat the cause? It is just something that we have all become really complacent to and have accepted as normal culture. However, at the same time, complain about the effects this has on both parties. We also need to acknowledge and challenge the networks and companies who veer this towards young people.
A call to reflect and act.
I just wanted to say one last thing regarding this whole topic. This isn't about cancelling or giving shit to people or content creators who have promoted this in the past. Like, that is not the point. It's more a thing of just checking yourself. But I would just hope that moving forward you would shift your attitude towards it as something we shouldn't condone.
And so I ask you, can we afford to ignore these trends any longer? How can we hope to cultivate meaningful relationships when we are trapped in an endless cycle of superficial comparisons and objectification? It is not enough to simply acknowledge the problem. We must challenge it head on. We really need to reevaluate the content we consume, question the standards we uphold, as well as calling out the people who praise this culture, because some of your favorite influencers, some of your favorite celebrities, some of your favorite people are part of the problem, and we can't keep letting them get away with it, guys. We need to actively create a space where real connection is valued more than physical appearance. This conversation isn't about pointing fingers. It's a call to action for each of us. So let's start by recognizing that the normalization of lust and sexual content is a symptom of a very deeper issue, one that undermines our ability to love and respect ourselves and others. If we want to see a change, we need to change our habits, celebrate our inequalities rather than our external looks, and hold the media accountable for the narratives that they promote. Ultimately, real love and genuine connection must start with us. So it is time to take a stand. It is time to foster healthier perspectives and work together to reclaim what it means to connect with someone on a deeper level. So thank you all for joining me on this difficult but very necessary conversation. I really hope you take something away from this and it gives you some food for thought and inspires you to question the norms that shape our lives. If you have found this discussion thought-provoking, please let me know, as I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Until next time, remember, true love and genuine connection must start with us. I'm Maya, and thank you very much for watching another TGY Pod video. Like and subscribe, guys.